well-to-do, young, beautiful, desirable. Men found her irresistible. Repulsion, a frightening film that takes the everyday world and distorts it, taking you inside the mind of a girl driven to insanity. No other film has ever shown with such intense reality the terrifying journey into madness.
I want to be with you all the time.
In the attractive body of this beautiful girl throbs the mind of a killer, possessed by the nightmare world of her sensual fantasies. Now the horrors from her twisted mind spill over into reality.
Poor little girl. All by herself. All shaking like a little frightened animal. Come on. Come on. Just a little kiss between friends, huh? Come on.
Now the nightmare terror from the depths of her imagination erupts into the solid world of everyday. And fact and fantasy are fused in a frantic fury of repulsion.
Hello again and welcome back to Dave's Movie Diary, Repulsion from 1965. Interesting trailer. I love watching these old trailers from back in the day with the dramatic voiceovers, and this one's really good because the sound effects come through, and they're the ones that are used in the movie, of course, and sound is a big part of the whole experience if you ever watch this film. I saw this film a long time ago. I don't actually know when. Probably mid to late 90s, I think, maybe, if I had to guess. And yeah, hadn't seen it since. And I'm a big fan of Roman Polanski, so I thought I'd check it out 30 years later and see if it resonated with me now. What's it about? It's quite a simple story in essence. It's a young woman played by Catherine Deneuve, the French actress, and she's in London. She's living with her older sister in a flat, and she's working as a beautician dealing with older ladies most of the time, and she has a male friend who she classes as a friend, and he wants to be a whole lot more. This is London in the swinging 60s, of course, when London really became the cosmopolitan center of the world for style and fashion and, cutting edge films. No surprise that Polanski set this in London at the time. Anyway, her mental state begins to deteriorate bit by bit, mainly because of the effects of men. And then she's left alone in the apartment when her sister goes to Italy with her boyfriend. And there's no supernatural element. She just starts to experience a psychological breakdown, and we're with her every step of the way. Literally, that's probably about an hour of the film, is that breakdown in minutia. So it's a fascinating look at nearly in real time, feels like. I mean, it's not real time, but it is very deliberately paced. So we get to watch Deneuve's character just decompress from the inside. I mentioned at the top, this is a film by Roman Polanski. That's a name that's well known to anybody, whether you're into films or not. You've probably heard of him. He's had some controversial elements to his life, which I won't touch on here. But he was a monumental filmmaker in the mid to late 60s, throughout the 70s. Probably not so much in the 80s, but then again in the 90s. And he's always made really interesting films thematically, visually, and sonically, as this film shows. What stood out to me with this one is that even though this is really early in his career, I think from memory it might be his second film. I feel like Knife in the Water was his first film, made 2 or 3 years before this. But this is the one that got a lot of attention for him. It's in English. It's set in London. It's got Catherine Deneuve in it, who became a very well-known international film star. And it shows you, well, it showed me that even at this young age, I don't know how old Polanski was when he made this, but he must have been quite young, how fully formed his ideas already are. I got a sense that he's already clearly interested in psychological entrapment and looking at reality subjectively, isolation, mental disintegration, obviously, but some other critical elements for me is about the male-female dynamic. And I was starting to think maybe this film has elements of feminism in it, but I hesitate to say that because of the nature of Deneuve's character's breakdown. It's just fraught with danger, stating things like that. But the thought did cross my mind. So anyway, like I said, crucially, everything in this film is grounded in reality, in that this is someone who is losing their mind, and we get to look over her shoulder and into her eyes, those big luminescent eyes that Polanski makes full use of. Very unsettling. You can already see the DNA of later, bigger films, or definitely in the case of Rosemary's Baby. And similarly with The Tenant, that's another film that I've seen that came out in the mid-70s. This film did remind me quite a bit of The Tenant, actually, because from memory, it's quite a bit about madness as well. So Polanski went on to much more renown with Rosemary's Baby in 1968. He also made a film called The Fearless Vampire Killers the year before that, which I remember as being quite interesting. I've only seen it the once as well. And then into the 70s, I think Rosemary's Baby really gave him crossover appeal in Western markets. That was a very successful novel. And then into the 70s, of course, he adapted Macbeth. He made Chinatown with Jack Nicholson. In the late 70s, he made a film called Tess with a very young Nastassja Kinski, which again was a big film. And then he came back in the 90s with films like Bitter Moon, Death and the Maiden, and obviously the Pianist in 1997, which was a huge movie. So he's interested in provocative material. There's no doubt about that. And this was an early example. Catherine Deneuve, the film really hinges on her performance. She's in nearly every scene, apart from one or two scenes with some men in a bar, sort of being male chauvinists and giving you that angle. She's really in all of it. We're seeing things through her eyes. We're getting a peek into her fragile mental state and seeing the hallucinations that she's experiencing. Because what happens is she starts manifesting people trying to break into the apartment, 2 or 3 rapes by unknown men. She's really just traumatized by this fear of men, is the way I took it, and that she was going to be attacked. And she's perfect for the role because she has this fragile kind of distant screen presence, almost untouchable, emotionally closed off, in the same vein as a Faye Dunaway for me. Hints of what Michelle Pfeiffer used to bring. Hard to relate to. She's just so beautiful and so unattainable for most of us that she's an interesting choice for me because she is so captivating and so stunning. It would have been a much easier choice to have her as a more dour, unattractive woman, which I've seen in other films. It's like the stereotype, right? Whereas in this one, she is really just that stunning and that attractive. It was unusual to see someone like that reacting to men in that way. In most films, you see them in total control. So that was an interesting choice for me. But what's interesting in this one is that she doesn't explain anything to you, and Polanski doesn't either. You've got to use your own mind, and you've got to put the pieces together. And I've put the pieces together, but that's for me. Could be right, could be wrong. It's just what I felt about the film, and that's the ambiguity that you get with European filmmaking. And I really think it carries this film, and it works well because we're dealing with someone who loses a mind, literally. Just getting back to that idea of male pressure in the social environment, I do think it's one of the key ideas here. This accumulation in Catherine Deneuve's case, her character Carol. I felt like it was possibly an accumulation of unwanted male attention over a long period of time, playing into some psychosis that was maybe dormant. The photo that's shown right at the end of the film obviously demonstrates a young girl who seems to be off with the fairies and already her mind's wandering. But I was thinking it could have. The trauma could have come from a constant build-up of this unwanted male attention, potentially from, I don't know, family members, uncles, cousins, who knows, sexual intrusion, casual harassment, which was rife back then. I mean, I'm not saying it's not now. I'd never suggest that, but growing up through the 70s and 80s, I've seen it firsthand, and I can only imagine what it was like in the 60s and 50s and back through time. It obviously was heightened to new levels back then, and it obviously led to a lot of social discomfort for lots of women, like this character of Carol. Individually, maybe none of it or not much of it is extreme, but collectively, it could have become corrosive for this character. We get some examples in this film. I was thinking after about 15 or 20 minutes, all the male characters that we're introduced to are either overtly sleazy, like there's the guys on the building site that she happens to walk past, and she's not wearing anything revealing or sexualized. She's just wearing nice, fashionable clothing that's covering her, and old mate leaning on his shovel or something says, how about a bit of the other? And it's, the way he looks at her and just smiles after she's walked past is just evocative of the times, I guess. There's also her sister's boyfriend who pinches her cheeks and sort of flirts with her a little bit, and then sort of complains to the sister that he can't get any reaction out of her. He even writes on the postcard something like, hope you're getting some love, or, just this casual, lazy kind of sexualization that happened back then, and I think it has reduced. I mean, there's been long campaigns over time to make guys that went in for this sort of thing hopefully aware that it's not on anymore. And I know it still happens, but hopefully it's reducing. But I think my earlier take about whether this is a feminist viewpoint or not is unresolved in my mind, and I'm genuinely torn about it. On the one hand, it initially felt like a really sharp depiction of how persistent sexualized male attention can have a damaging psychological effect on someone who's already isolated. But then the competing thought was that the fact that the film frames this through insanity complicates that take. And it really raised the question for me, and maybe for you, whether this is a feminist critique of society, or is it a portrait of a breakdown that uses a woman's perspective to tell that story? Maybe the latter. I don't fully know where I land on it. Again, I'm probably not the right person to talk to that issue. Roman Polanski being judged through or as a feminist viewpoint would be a new take, that's for sure. If you know anything about some of the events or one particular event in his life. The pacing in this film is tricky. I think look, it's not 1965. There is slow pacing in this, but to me it feels intentional, and for two reasons. Yes, it's there to do the traditional thing with good filmmaking, and especially of its time and era and everything, is that it builds up suspense. But I wondered too that is the slow pacing used to mirror real life, long empty stretches, and then these sudden disruptive things that are coming up more and more as the film goes on, as she really breaks down. And that contrast kind of makes the shocks feel more real when they do come. And it felt to me like time itself is part of the pressure that's pushing it toward collapse. And, this is really a thing of its time. And before the internet, this was a thing. I can remember, for no particular reason at all at times, especially when I used to live by myself, having these long empty stretches when there was nothing going on, and you did start to look within yourself and start to probe at your psyche. And I wonder if that's a dynamic that's kind of slipped away now with the internet and with more connection that's available. For Catherine Deneuve's character in this film, there definitely was a lack of connection outside of her sister and a colleague, a work colleague, who seems to be going through, who was going through some bad relationships with men, which I think contributed to Carol's breakdown. So the timing and the pacing, I could defend it as being part of a structured attempt by Polanski to really make the shocks work, and they do. Now, Polanski has to show this visual breakdown of reality, right? This is a visual medium. This is a film, and he uses some really strong visual ideas to get across that reality's slipping away. There's a great scene where Carol's ironing, and you think, cool, yeah, that's a more normal activity. It happens quite late in the film, and then the camera pans down and follows the plug, and it's not plugged in. I mean, the more obvious ones are that these massive cracks start appearing in the walls. And there's a great scene where not only that happens, but then she starts putting her hands on the walls and realizing that whenever she does, there's a handprint left. I mean, the big ones, of course, are these manifested kind of hallucinations where men are pushing their way into a room, pushing down a tall boy and getting to her and then raping her with no sound effects. I found that particularly disturbing for some reason. I don't know why. made it more. I don't know. It just really bothered me without that sound that maybe it's because I was expecting the sound to be more human. Without the sound, it's really like she's being violated by something otherworldly. Polanski really uses the apartment well. The black and white cinematography helps. The apartment sort of becomes an extension of her mind almost, and the reality is literally breaking down around her with the walls and the doors and all sorts of other things that I won't get into, but it's very effective, as is the sound and the atmosphere. You can see you could hear it in the trailer, the jarring kind of unrhythmic sound design that Polanski used, really disorienting in a deliberate way. Like I mentioned, in those assault hallucination sequences, no sound and then sound, and like an alarm ringing that snaps her out of it. The constant tolling of the bell where the nuns are next door at 11 o'clock at night. Combined with the visuals, it really keeps the viewer in a slightly unsettled state. It kept me in a slightly unsettled state anyway. I like what he did with the camera here too. Used a lot of handheld camera, and it gave the violent scenes a really unstable feeling, and it made me feel like I was there, sort of reeling from the impact, and it made it feel less staged. Gave me that real point of view feeling, and I guess added to that aggression and chaos. He's really good at this stuff, Polanski. Even in his later polished films like Chinatown, he's very good at showing some unsettling moments with violence. So look, this is one of the better depictions of breakdowns, I feel, that I've seen anyway on film, especially at such an early time in 1965. The way that she's so dissociated for nearly all the film. She's in these trances. She's walking around in the city. She walks past a car crash without reacting. It seems like quite a serious one. There's people rubbernecking, and it just shows you how detached she's become from reality. There's another great scene where she's just closing the closet door with a mirror, and suddenly there's a guy standing right behind her that somehow got into her room. She spins around and there's no one there. Just brilliant, these little touches. Just ratchets up the suspense and this feeling that she really is losing her mind. And it's accentuated by the camera at the end panning up and down and around the room, showing the things that she's dropped on the floor. There's food scraps and all sorts of things. And then it comes to rest on that family photo that's shown fleetingly earlier in the film, but then the camera just zooms in on her, standing behind her parents and her sister, and she's looking off to the side, and her eyes are really wild, and the camera keeps on pushing and pushing and pushing into her eyes. And it's a great way to finish the film, because at the start, the credits literally peel up from underneath an eyeball, and it's her eyes, and she's looking, and the titles are coming up and curving around her eyeball initially. It's a fantastic effect with this drum beat. Really, really disconcerting. And straight away I knew I was in for something memorable. So look, final thoughts. It does feel like it's obviously a very early Polanski. Like I think it's his second film, but he's already showing off a bit, showing you what he can do. And I thought, after I finished watching it, I thought, what would this have been like for folks in 1965? Okay, Psycho was 1960. That's a taste. This film takes it to another level in terms of what it shows, and we live with her perceptions for the whole film. It's not like in Psycho where it's back and forth between Anthony Perkins and the other characters, and it's Hitchcock, so it's more for entertainment, really. This is not for entertainment, this film. It's really showing you what a breakdown could look like. And it's positing a few reasons maybe why the breakdown occurred, but it's really leaving up to your judgment, and then your prejudices and your background. And, I'm probably looking, I am looking at it through a 2026 lens, and I'm aware of the male-female dynamic now, and that really resonated with me on this rewatch. And I think the first time when I saw this, I was expecting something like Rosemary's Baby, because I'm pretty sure that I saw this. I obviously saw Rosemary's Baby first. That was the first Polanski film I ever saw. I think either that or Frantic, maybe. But Polanski, at the time I saw Frantic when it came out in '88, wouldn't have meant much to me. Whereas watching Rosemary's Baby, I would have probably thought, this is a film made 3 years before that. Repulsion, you read about it, I would have thought, this is more like a standard suspense horror film. And I can remember being disappointed by it and thinking that it wasn't that shocking, or it wasn't that, why did it have this reputation? So I would have been mid-20s, late 20s tops. I wouldn't have been looking at it through the lens that I'm looking at it now, which is sort of appreciating the breakdown that's shown here and thinking about the reasons why. I would have been watching it for the thrills back then. I know that. And it wouldn't have landed because, again, I keep saying this in these pods, I would have been comparing it to other films of the 90s or the 80s, not 1965, and thinking about what Polanski was trying to achieve. And I wouldn't have had Polanski's whole catalogue of films to draw upon and contrast like I am now. So, again, it's this thing that you get with age, right, and experience. You get a broader spectrum to use as context, and that's what I'm doing now, I think. So I definitely won't forget this film now that I've really sat down and watched it properly and concentrated on it. I think I'll always remember the way that her breakdown is shown. So yeah, no explicit horror here, really. It's more realistic, a realistic take on a breakdown. So it does put you inside the psychological collapse, though, and that's an unsettling experience. But that's what I love to get. I always say in these pods, I love films that do something to me, that keep me thinking or hit me emotionally. That's what resonates with me. Not so much complicated scripts or thrill upon thrill. Sorry, not thrill upon thrill, but twists and turns and technical wizardry so much. It's something that gets inside and changes the way I feel while I'm watching it. Anyway, that's it for me. Repulsion, 1965. Watched it on DVD. I'm not aware of it being on a streaming platform, but if you're lucky enough to have access to Criterion or one of those kind of streaming platforms, maybe you'll find it on there. But anyway, keep an eye out for it. It's an early glimpse of a really exciting filmmaker and someone whose films I've spent a lot of time with over the years. So expect some more of those films to show up in this pod. Anyway, as always, thanks for listening. See you next time.